Notepad, Idle, and Nano just can't get the job done. It is time for something better. Welcome back to Learning with Merit. I am Mr. Merit, and it is VS Code on today's episode of Python Interpreted. Here we are at code.visualstudio.com. Upper right hand corner, we're going to take a look at download. When we click on download, there are several different options for us depending on what we are using as an operating system. We're going to hit Windows 10/11. We're going to start that download. It's going to pop up here just a second for me, and I'm going to hit save. That's our .exe. I'm going to hit Windows and R, and I'm going to type Explorer. And hit enter. That's going to open up the Explorer for me. We're going to go straight to the downloads. Double click that exe and it's going to start the installation process. You got to accept that agreement. We're going to go to next. It's going to talk about the destination of the install, what we are going to name it in the start menu folder. Then we have open with code that we want to check these. These are very helpful in context menus, and then create a desktop icon for us as well. And we'll go ahead and hit install and be right back. Now that it's done, we're going to go ahead and hit finish. It's going to launch Visual Studio Code for us, and there's a few things we want to do right off the bat whenever it loads. We're going to make this full screen so that you can see. It's going to start asking a whole bunch of things. For right now, let's go ahead and just hit X on anything down here that pops up. We have Get Started with Visual Studio Code. My guess is you're going to probably want to pick a dark theme, and then there are several different things that we can do here. But usually what I do is I pick dark theme and go ahead and exit out of that tab. So now that we have the VS Code window, we are ready to get started. All right, there are a few extensions I'm going to recommend that you install that are good and very useful. If we come down over here to the left-hand side, we're going to click Extensions, or you can hit Control Shift and X to do that. You click on that, we are going to search for a few. I'm just going to show you the ones that I have installed. So IU here is my dark theme that I prefer, and so you can look for this one and install that. We're probably going to use a hex editor occasionally, and so we have a built-in hex editor here to VS Code. There are better options if you're willing to install separate programs, but I like this one because it's built in. Then we have a Markdown previewer. This is for Markdown code. I write a lot of notes in Markdown, so I like to be able to look at that stuff. And then if you find Python here, this will actually install the other two that you're seeing. So we have Python. It is going to install Pylance, which is going to help us with understanding the Python language, give us some suggestions and things like that, so that we can, don't have to go searching for everything. And then a Python debugger for when we are in trouble or trying to understand how a particular program works. All right, here is the version of VS Code that we are currently running. We're going to go ahead and click OK off of that. You can take a look at that in the pause menu if you need to. Here at the top, we have a menu bar. We're going to take a look at that. We have a side menu bar, and we have a status bar at the bottom. On the upper right-hand corner, we have several buttons, three of which we should already know. That's close, maximize, restore, and minimize. We have the sidebar toggle, which can also be toggled with Control B. We have the toggle panel, which can also be toggled with Control J. We have the right sidebar, which can also be toggled with Control Alt B. And then we have the Customize Layout button. This will allow us to customize and change different things, as well as look at some of the control keys that we have for that. Over on the left-hand side, we have File, which has all of our major file and folder controls. We're going to spend a lot of time here whenever we're opening files and folders. We're also going to learn these keyboard shortcuts as well. I encourage you to learn keyboard shortcuts. They will help you out immensely. The Edit and Selection tabs here are not as important once you learn some keyboard shortcuts, but they're great for looking at what these different keyboard shortcuts are. And then we also have Select there, as I said. Take a look at those. View is going to allow us to open up different things. Let's say that we've removed something from here. For example, if we come down here and we have this status bar down at the bottom, we right click and click Hide Status Bar. You notice that it disappeared. Well, if we want that back, we go to View, we go to Appearance, and then we can find Status Bar right there, and it pops right back up. So several things in the view will allow us to come and grab anything that maybe we have hidden or things like that. And of course, we have several different items there as well. Go is going to be for different little things here, like go to file, for example, go to definition. Mostly I don't find myself using this a huge amount, but there are some useful things here. Run is going to be mostly for our run debugging, and we're going to take a look at that as well when we start working with Python debugging. Then we have a few more there, such as terminal, where we can add a new terminal, split a terminal, run a task, do several things there. That will be helpful whenever we are running commands. We have a built-in terminal to VS Code. Help is where you can find all those extra things if you want to go back to the welcome menu and run through that, or you can look through all the little tutorials, tips and tricks, things on YouTube, and of course that about information that I showed you just a second ago. Now that we've got that, over on the left-hand side, we have a status bar, another menu bar where we have Explorer there, which is where it's going to show us our files and folders that we have open. We have a search for search and replace, or just to find things. We can also hit Control F for that. We have source control, which will work with things like Git and GitHub. That'll be later down the road. We have our run and debug menu, which comes from the run menu as well. This will be very useful when debugging with the Python debugger. And of course, we have extensions if we want to install any other extensions than the ones that we have now. All right, to create a new file, what we're going to do is we're going to click up here at the upper left-hand corner. We're going to click on File and go to New Text File. And whenever we do that, it will allow us to select a language. Then we can type Python, just like that. And then we can type our obligatory print hello world and spell it correctly, of course. Then in order to save it, we can go to File and Save As, or you can hit Control-Shift-S. Just like that, it will take us to here. We're going to go to our desktop. I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call this my-workspace. Then I'm going to go ahead and save my file there. We're going to call this main.py because it's just a simple little script we're playing with now. And there we go. If I want to run this, I can hit Control-J. That will open up the terminal. Usually, if I have opened this as a folder, the terminal will automatically open up into the correct folder. I'll show you that in a minute. But for now, we're going to have to actually move manually there. And so we're going to say cd desktop and then my workspace, because that is where I place the file. If I type ls there, you will see you'll see main.py. I'm going to hit clear, type python main.py, and hit enter, and you'll see hello world. All right, this time we're going to open up a folder so that we can work on the files inside of the folder. So we're going to go to File here and go down to Open Folder, or you can also hit Control-K and then Control-O consecutively, and that will open up a file explorer for you to find your folder. So we're going to click Open Folder there. I'm going to go to Desktop, and I created that My Workspace folder a minute ago. I'm going to click on that folder there and click Select Folder. Now what that does is over here in my Explorer, it's going to open up my workspace and main.py, and of course VS Code is going to ask me if I trust the authors of this folder. Yes, I do, because I am the author. It may also open up this ability for you to do a new file, open folder. This is their little welcome tab. I'm just going to exit out of that because I don't need it. Over here on the left hand side, this is my little Explorer. I can close the folder, I can open it back up. I have main. If I want to create a new folder, let's call this, I don't know, we'll call it like utils, because maybe I have a utils folder for my project. And then if I want to create a file in there, we'll call this helpers.py, like that. So now I have a utils folder inside of my workspace with the helpers.py file. I can double click on these to open them up. I can click to preview them. So for example, if I click on helpers, you'll see that it's italicized here. That's because it's not fully open yet. But if I start typing some stuff like that, so I do like, I don't know, import date time, and then we did like print datetime dot now, like that. And then we hit Control-J. That will open up my workspace. You see, you notice how it went straight to my workspace. Type ls, then I can cd to utils, and we can see if it will run that helpers file for me real quick. And you see it gave me the current date and time in that little helpers file. Then of course we have our regular main file. I can type cd ... and that will take me back one directory. Type ls, you see main.py. I type python main.py. Hit right there, boom, hello world, everything's working. I can move around with my terminal down here. Okay, let's say the terminal and the Explorer are in the way. I can come up here and get rid of the terminal. I can get rid of that, and I can be very focused on what I'm writing. I can bring them back with these little tabs up here, or I can hit Control J to get rid of the terminal or bring it back, or I can hit Control B. Whoops, sorry. Gotta make sure I'm off of the terminal to hit Control B, and then just like that. Very useful thing I do all the time is I hit Control J. Maybe I type Python main.py. That runs the code. Now I want it out of the way. Hit Control J again, and there I am back writing my code. So now we want to create a workspace so that we can work with multiple folders and files across the system that all live on different paths. So we're going to click on File up here, and we're going to open up a folder first. So we're going to open up our first folder. It's going to be in Desktop. We can find it right here in My Project, and so I'm going to open that up. Then what we are going to do is we're going to go and we're going to add to this workspace. So we're going to do Add Folder to Workspace under File. We're going to open that up, and just so happens in Documents I've created this other project folder. We're going to click Add there, and now you will see that we have access to both of those folders up here. Now if you hover over Other Project, you'll see that it's on a different path. It's on Users, User, Documents, Other Project. My project is under Users, User, Desktop in My Project, but we have access to both of these files. And now what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to save this as a workspace. So we're going to come down here, we're going to find Save Workspace As, and it's going to create a configuration file. Now this file is .code-workspace, and you should stick it where you want. It can be as a part of Desktop or a part of your project or whatever you want, but we're going to call this, instead of My Project Code Workspace, we're going to call this just My Workspace, like that. So now we have My Workspace, and inside of that we have My Project and Other Project. Let's say that we want to open up a workspace that you have already created. So we're going to hit Control-Shift-N here, and this is going to open up a new window. That's just to get rid of everything I've done so far so that we can see a sort of blank slate situation. See, we have Open Folder here with nothing open. We're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Open Workspace from File. Then we're going to go to Desktop where we saved it, and we will find this configuration file here and click on that. Click Open, and it will automatically open up our workspace for what we were working on. And of course, you see I have main.py in two separate scenarios. Here is the main.py from Other Project with a funny little situation there. And then we also have main.py with our Hello World in it. Then if I hit Control J down here, it will of course open up in My Projects folder, and then I can move around as I need to. Another cool thing I could do is, let's say that I want to have two different terminals. I can click this plus button here, and that will open up another terminal for me if it will get around to it. This one we're going to open in Other Project. And so now we have two little terminals. You'll see how the terminal prompt is changing there. We can switch between the two locations to make it very easy for us to work. All right, now let's quickly talk about the terminal. I'm going to hit Control and J to pop that open. Make sure I'm clicked in the actual window, and then I'm going to hit Control J. All right, so now that we're there, it will open up whatever the default terminal is for us. In this case, it is PowerShell, and it's opening me up into My Project. Now, there's a couple different things I can do. I can select here, and we can split the terminal or hit Control Shift and 5. We can move different things, change the color, change icon, kill the terminal as in delete it, different things we can do there. Mostly, I tend to use it for things like this. I'm going to click plus. It's going to allow me to open a terminal. We have this workspace going on here, so I've got My Project, Other Project. I can create a second terminal that I can switch between these two. One that is inside of My Project, one that is at Other Project. It makes it just very easy for me. Let's say that I want to split one of the terminals here. So now I have the terminal split. I can run commands from either of these and flip back and forth. While one thing is doing something, I can switch back to the other one. I can click the delete button over here. We can also just hit the delete key whenever we're working on that. A few more useful things. Maybe I don't want to use PowerShell. Maybe I want command prompt. So I can hit that bottom arrow there, hit command, and it will open up a CMD prompt for me. And we've also got some other options that may show up if you're using Linux or whatever, or WSL, the Windows subsystem for Linux on VS Code. That will pop up here as well. Then we have clear terminal, some different things there that work different in different situations. We have this little up arrow button here to maximize the panel size. I really like this, especially since I can do this. I can switch back and forth between my terminal and my code, and it is full screen both ways and very quick to work from. So you can drop that back down there. And we have a few more things. Ports, for the most part, as a beginner, is not going to be important. Terminal, you're going to use a lot. Debug console will show up whenever we start running debugs. Outputs will typically come from programs. You usually have to set this up. And then problems, this will be useful whenever you have an issue with your code. Let's say, see, I've got an issue there, and it pops up. It's trying to help us track down what problem we have with our code. So that panel is a very useful little tool. And of course, whenever I fix it, if I hit the right key there, it shows me that we no longer have an issue.